So, hello everyone. I'm Hilary Hahn,
I'm Eric Whitacre.
and
I'm Hauschka.
and we are backstage in London with all sorts of flickering lights, and there's a video installation up there. So
Bears.
Yeah, bears. It looks like we're in Berlin because there are bears, but whatever. So I just thought it would be nice because we're all in the same program to tell people what we're doing here. Does anyone want to explain?
Yeah, so let's see. So it's a Yellow Lounge concert. Decca, I think, put it together, right? And your Deutsche Grammophon?
Yeah, it's a universal thing.
A universal thing, yeah. So and I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to bring classical music to urban spaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to make classical music cool, I think. We think classical music's cool already. But I have to say, watching what the two of you did tonight, it's far removed from, I think, what you'd even think typical classical music is.
Yeah, we don't really consider what we're doing to be classical. We're just playing.
Yeah.
We're just kind of improvising. So I don't know what it is.
I think it's
what it
more
counts
like
as.
the thing is, the more you categorize the thing as classical, the more I think it moves away from it because it creates, like, for me, a kind of expectation that I think we always thought that it would be nice to say that it's our music that is created on the spot.
Yeah.
Which is maybe sounding...
It sounds a little idealistic.
Idealistic, but it's something. What is very nice is that when you create it on the spot, and people are reacting spontaneously to it in a very positive way.
Yes.
I think that's extremely uplifting, and we did that now the second time, and it was
Yeah, we're on tour now.
yes.
Are you on tour?
Not officially, but you know how it is. It's like,
Secretly.
Yeah, it's endless. Yeah. It just seems endless. Yes.
So
I'm going
watch
here,
out
I'm
in
going-
your town.
Yeah. And maybe in your basement.
Yeah, so you performed with your singers?
That's right. So I did a concert tonight with my singers, the Eric Whitacre singers, and we did 5 pieces. Well, we sang 4 pieces, and we also projected a virtual choir 3 tonight.
You want to tell people about the virtual choir?
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know what the virtual choir is, it's this crazy thing I've been doing for the past 3 years, I suppose. And the idea is I upload a conductor track of one of my pieces. It's just me conducting in silence. And then singers from all over the world upload their parts, soprano, alto, tenor, or bass. We cut it all together and it makes a choir. And this last virtual choir 3 has 3,746 singers from 73 countries.
Wow.
It's just become this phenomenon. And so we projected it tonight, which in the club was actually a very cool space to have it in.
Do you actually know this German feller that is called Fischer?
No.
He was actually creating this kind of like a folk choir where he was like conducting in stadiums. So people came into the stadium, they all were singing.
Really?
Yes, and he was like putting it into like voices, and he was like saying like this is soprano, and then they were singing. A lot of times they were singing folk music, but it was a huge movement. They still existing. They're called the Fischer choirs.
Really?
Yes.
I think
How
it's
cool.
amazing to hear a whole bunch of people singing at the same time. I mean, you don't hear that many instrumentalists together pretty much ever. You have an orchestra,
Yes.
and then you have a choir, but to expand it is a really interesting idea.
Yeah, there's something so human, isn't there,
Mhm.
about the voice and massed voices, and it just, I think it fundamentally speaks to who we are as a community, and it's been fun to be a part of this for sure.
Do you perform singing? Do you ever sing?
I sing a little in the shower. You know my wife, of course,
Yeah,
Hila,
yeah.
and
Wonderful singer.
she's so
Beautiful
good. And then I have a
voice.
little 6-year-old boy, and he's also a pretty good singer, and so I don't sing that much in public.
So actually, you write stuff, and
That's
then
right.
you perform, but you don't actually sing it, but your singers
That's
are
right.
performing it.
And I conduct it.
So that must be interesting to interpret your own music that you've written, to kind of coach people through it. What
Yeah.
is that like?
And especially not really being a singer.
Uh-huh.
It feels like, I'm sure other conductors have said this, but for me the voices, the choir itself is my instrument,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel now very comfortable playing that instrument and pulling from people a certain sound and a certain color, and organizing the right group of people to make that sound. It's to be honest, hearing my music performed like by these singers tonight, and then I get to conduct it. It's transcendent. It's the greatest thing. I feel like the luckiest guy in the world.
How do you pick your singers?
They're handpicked at this point. So there are a number of very, very good professional choirs here in London, and then I have listened to all the discs, and I go to all the concerts, and then say, I like her, or
Oh,
that tenor
cool.
right there. And then we talk, and so there are no auditions yet. They're all just handpicked.
Do you find that some people are really good on their own or in their own group, and then it seems like it'll work, and when you get them together in the whole sound of the choir, somehow it doesn't blend?
Yeah, that's a real. It's very insightful you say that. It's so.
I mean, because you have a relatively small group of singers.
Yes.
And each one has an important role.
That's it, and it's not necessarily the best solo voice that makes for the best ensemble voice. And so you really have to separate yourself when you're hearing a soloist as to is that the kind of person, and also there's a personality to take into account, which is a huge part of it. Right? Are they the kind of person that belongs in this little community?
I mean, also the personal attitude is also in the voice. I mean, when you're not convinced of your voice, then you're singing very quiet. Is it right?
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, so you have to be, and each section, they're their own little team, and so you want to get just the right blend of personalities. But when you get it, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. Well, do you find, Volker, when you work with other instrumentalists, you've done times when, like, you've written stuff for people to play when you're on the road and they just quickly pick it up, rehearse, and perform.
Yeah.
And then you've worked with the two cellists that you work with who improvise with you on a regular basis. Do you find that in that there's a bit of that personality mix thing that you have to take into account?
Absolutely. I would say, especially with improvising, you need a lot of security in yourself. Otherwise, it's a lot of psychology, I would say, which I think is in singing very much the same thing. Especially when I was with bands on tour and the singer had a bad night or something like that. He's not like, the songs are, maybe you can interpret the songs then like, oh yeah, all the love songs are getting better, but the rest is like very worse, But in the end, it all comes together with a psychological feeling of like the inner strength, or if you're convinced. Sometimes I think also in a group, I would say it's very difficult to. Well, you want to play an important role because you are performing, but to find your spot in the group, and that makes the whole, like the sound of it, like a jewel. That is for me like very needs a certain personality, and finding that was for me a lifetime achievement.
Yeah.
Finding those people that are very good, but they also have the strength to step back, and whenever they have a possibility, they take it. Go to the front and then they step back. I think this connection between strength and stepping back is very important.
Well, we were talking before the performance, we didn't know what to call the things we do because they're not exactly songs, because they're not vocal, and because it's just violin and piano for us. And they're not tracks because tracks are like on a record, but are they pieces because they're not pre-composed? You don't write exactly songs, but they are vocal.
Yes.
So what do you consider your works to be? You're kind of a songwriter in a way.
Yeah, it's really true, and it's funny. Classical, I don't even know what that means anymore.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, and frankly,
certain things are obviously classical.
Yes. Yeah.
There's
a formality.
The history of it.
Yes.
You could just say, well, up to this point, it's clearly considered classical music.
Yes, but what we're doing now, it's so genre bending, and I know even for myself that I feel as influenced by the great composers, by Bach, Beethoven, Brahms, as I do by the Beatles or Bjork. I just came up with 5 B composers.
They're everywhere.
The genre doesn't make sense to me. The classification of the genre anymore, and especially hearing what you guys are doing tonight, it just seems like it's genre-less in a way.
But there's so many influences out there. If you draw on one influence and you draw on another, they're bound to be very disparate, even just through your own experiences listening to any kind of music.
Yeah, that's true.
But so you consider yourself a composer?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, composer first. But I guess I think of myself. The truth is,
because you're also a performer. Like, you have to bring your music to the stage in a way through your own guidance. But other people can do it too because you write it out.
Yeah, that's true.
Right?
I think of myself as composer first. I love conducting, but I never really take it. only recently have I started taking myself seriously as a performer. You know, like for instance, my wife, I don't know if you're like this, she has to have 2 bananas at exactly the right time. She has to have a quiet period and really focus, and
Yeah.
you know, she has a whole routine. And for me, I generally am drinking Campari and talking to the stage hands 2 seconds before I go out. And only recently have I thought, actually, I genuinely need to focus and just quiet my mind and be present for this as a conductor, not also as a composer.
What difference does that make for you? The change of routine.
Well, ideally, I think I'm finding depths in the music, in the performance that I didn't ever find before. That before it all felt very intuitive and felt beautiful, and I was having a good time. But now, also too, a conductor, a lot of times your job isn't, you're not necessarily going to have an ecstatic experience. A lot of times as a conductor, your job is to make sure everybody else on stage is having an ecstatic experience.
And the audience, and it's just like you have to work behind the scenes in a way.
That's it.
But you're in front, but you're really behind the scenes.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's only recently come to me where I'm up there and I say, oh, I'll enjoy this later. But for now, it's my job just to make sure this all runs well.
But well, to be quite honest, we were watching you while you were
Yeah,
performing.
we were watching you.
You were.
Yes. And to be quite honest, I think it's the most nicest thing to see actually the choir singing through your, like how you behave. I mean, how you act. Because
You also speak the
Yeah,
words like
because
for cues.
you get so like excited in not encouraging them, but like speaking to them, and you hear this choir and this interaction. It's sometimes much nicer to see someone who's actually not performing, but is actually in the performance, like really deeply into it. It's
Which you're saying that you
Thank
saw.
you.
yes,
Yeah.
which we saw from the side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I'm in heaven.
the singers as well, they seem very connected with the music, and also with you. It just seems a very comfortable working environment. I don't know if it actually is.
No, it
inside
totally
you.
is. Yeah, it's incredibly organic, and part of that just I think has to do with the nature of choral singing, which is that we're all breathing together. So there's something just taking these breaths together constantly. After a few minutes on stage, everything becomes much more compassionate. There's an empathy between people just because we're all literally on the same page in terms of our physiology.
There was one supernatural thing that I heard where I was wondering what that was, because there was in 2 songs there was one note constantly going through, like high notes, constantly going through.
Oh, yes.
Are they actually changing the breath at different?
Exactly.
angles?
Yeah. Just it's called stagger breathing.
Oh,
Right.
okay.
Yeah. So it's the illusion that you've got a single breath that
Yes.
holds and holds and holds.
Yeah. And I was thinking, is there a feedback?
Yeah.
But it wasn't.
That
It was
doing
too
it right.
beautiful.
What was amazing is with
But you can't do circular breathing when you're singing.
No, you can't. I can, but but it sounds terrible. But this choir can get as big as 36 singers. Tonight we performed with just 19, and so which means that on that held note there was only 2 sopranos
Yes.
alternating back and forth.
Yes.
To be very good at pitch.
Yeah, amazing,
Yes.
right? And so seamless, and come in and also being able to listen when the other person is taking a breath and then not to.
It's magic. It's really magic. I was really listening to this one note, and I was like, "Oh, man, where is she? Yeah, does she have a kind of oxygen bag?"
Yeah, and you know what I think is beautiful? I try as a composer then to make, like for instance, that note, because then even if you're not consciously tracking the fact that someone's not breathing, in the back of your mind somewhere, it's something that's happening. You're thinking that's impossible, and I think it lifts you a little bit, and especially with the human voice, it takes you out of yourself, makes you feel connected to something larger than yourself, ideally.
No.
Well, I have a final question, which is, I noticed at one point the singers were moving together in sort of a choreography.
Yes.
Is there a reason you do that?
Yeah, so for that piece, it's actually written into the piece itself, and it's this piece, Come Sweet Death, and they sing this Bach chorale, Komm so tot. In English, they sing it through once, normal. Then they sing it with these gestures, and then we do it all in slow motion, where everyone's singing at their own pace. You smear it, and you see each person moving at their own pace. And I think the reason that the composer Edwin London put those in is that it immediately, the visual impact is so great that you see suddenly like a mass of humanity all moving together, but each individual sort of striving for their own thing in their own time. But then at the end, they all surrender into death, basically. And it's just so beautiful how you see these arcs of individual lives from a distance. For me, it's simplicity itself.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the sort of dance element. It's almost like a dance.
Yes,
Sort of a
that's
dance. In close quarters.
Did you find it effective?
On risers.
Yeah. It's a
But,
good way to
yeah.
get intimate with people.
No, I
but-
mean it was really interesting. It's hard with an instrument to be able to do that kind of thing because your arms are occupied.
Yes.
And I've always noticed when singers perform, there's kind of a question if they don't use the music. You know, if they don't have something in their hands, what are they going to do? What do you do with the hand? Do you put the hand on the piano? Do you gesture with it? Do you look at the audience? Do you kind of sing for yourself? And I think that answered that question in a really interesting way.
Yeah, and I'd like to explore that further actually, because I think not only is it interesting for the audience, but it's great for the singers. You know,
Yeah?
as soon as they kind of free their body and start moving, the breath changes, the tuning gets even crisper.
Oh, I would think it would throw it off.
No, it's one of the great. It's a classic trick in vocal master classes. Is that you have them sing it through first, and then they do it the way they do it, and then you have them do it again, and just have them walk while they're doing it and moving their hands, and get them outside their body and their head, and suddenly the whole thing just becomes more free. And once it becomes free in the breath, it's all about the breath. As soon as you're breathing low and relaxed, then everything gets fixed.
Oh.
It's a very good trick.
I think maybe if all life were that way, it would be very nice.
Actually, those are probably words to live by.
Yeah, it could be. Do you have any other questions?
No, I just was thinking that there will be a time where we see choirs walking through cities
I'm
while
sure
they're singing.
that's a really good idea.
How beautiful would that be?
You know,
How beautiful.
maybe that's getting into the normal routine of everyday life.
Flash choir.
I hope a flash.
It sounds wrong.
It does. It does.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you guys.
Bye.